File 1A. Listening.
Hello, Mr. Bridges?
Yes, hello. I'm Stephen Bridges.
Good morning. My name's Jenny Howarth.
Nice to meet you, Ms. Howarth.
Would you like to get some coffee before we start?
Oh, no, thank you.
All right. Please come in and take a seat.
Thank you.
You had no trouble finding us this morning, then?
Yes, it was easy. I took the subway to 42nd Street, and then I walked. It's a beautiful morning.
Yes, it is. So you're here for the position of hotel receptionist, is that right?
Yes, that's right. I saw your ad on the Complete Jobs website, and I decided to apply.
You know that this is only a temporary position, don't you, Mr. Bridges?
Yes, I do. And that's ideal for me. I'm moving across the country in 3 months, so it fits in perfectly with my plans.
Really? Where are you going to go?
Well, I just graduated from college with a degree in modern languages, and I'm going to graduate school to work on a master's degree in California in September to study applied linguistics. My cousin lives there, so I'm going to stay with him, which I'm really looking forward to. We get along really well, and he knows all the best restaurants to visit. He's been living in California for a couple of years now, and I've been to see him a few times.
Yes, well, back to you, Mr. Bridges. Have you had any experience working in a hotel reception?
Yes, I have. Last summer, I spent a month at Fiesta Hotel in Playa del Carmen. My Spanish improved a lot while I was there, and I also learned a lot about customer care. Some of my colleagues were a little bit difficult sometimes, but in general, we worked well as a team.
I see. You mentioned Spanish, Mr. Bridges. Which other languages do you speak?
I speak Spanish, French, and a little Italian. From my research, I believe most of your guests are from South America. Is that right?
Yes, but we also have some customers from Asia, mainly Japan. Do you think this would cause you any difficulties?
Not at all. I'm a good communicator, so we would be able to understand each other.
Tell me how you would deal with a difficult guest, for example, someone who thinks there is a mistake with the bill.
I don't think I would have much of a problem. I would speak English with them, very slowly if necessary, and I would use a lot of actions to explain what I wanted to say. If there was a problem with a room number or a price, I would write it down for them. I'm sure I'd be able to make myself understood. I'm very friendly and professional, so I'd have no problem making customers happy.
Okay. Can you tell me a little more about your experience in Playa del Carmen? What were your duties there?
Well, I was assistant receptionist there, which meant that I had to deal with the guests who were checking into and checking out of the hotel. I didn't have to make phone reservations. The head receptionist dealt with that. I read on your website that you only have one receptionist on the desk at any one time. Is that right?
Yes, we're just a small hotel, so you would have to deal with guests in person and on the phone. Would that be a problem for you?
No, not at all. I mean, I haven't used a reservations program before, but I'm sure I'd pick it up really quickly. I'm very good with computers.
Yes, the program is very easy. So, Mr. Bridges, why do you think I should hire you and not somebody else?
Well, I think I have the right skills for the job. I'm a very reliable and efficient person, and I've had some experience in the field. I can also use my language skills to communicate with the foreign guests. The position is for a limited amount of time, which suits us both. Basically, I think that I'm perfect for the job, and the job is perfect for me.
That's fine, Mr. Bridges. One last question. When can you start?
File 1A. Pronunciation B. 1.
What kind of music do you like to listen to?
2. Which college did you go to? 3.
Have you ever worked in an office?
4. What are your ambitions for the future? 5.
Would you like to work abroad?
6. How many languages do you speak? File 1B. Listening.
On today's program, we're going to talk about superstitions. Elena, where do superstitions come from?
Well, the definition of a superstition is an irrational belief, and we have to go back hundreds of years to find an explanation of their existence. Sometimes the reason behind a superstition is even more bizarre than the superstition it tries to explain. Take the case of the black cat, for example. Most people know that it's supposed to be a sign of bad luck if a black cat walks in front of you, but they probably can't tell you why. Well, the reason is that in the Middle Ages, black cats became associated with witches, and they were said to possess evil spirits. So, obviously, people thought that if a black cat crossed your path, that this was not very good news at all.
So the black cat superstition has been with us for a long time?
Yes, but not as long as the idea that we shouldn't walk under ladders. Apart from the practical reasons for not doing this, obviously somebody might drop some paint on your head while you are walking underneath. There is a more mysterious explanation that goes right back to ancient Egypt. The shape of a triangle was sacred to the Egyptians, and it was considered very bad luck to, as it were, break the power of this shape. People believed that if you walked under a ladder, the power of the triangle would break, and you would lose your protection against bad luck.
Are there any superstitions about good luck?
Yes, there are. You know how people often touch wood or knock on wood when they're talking about something they hope will or won't happen in the future?
Yes. In fact, I often do it myself.
Well, in the Middle Ages, people used to knock on trees to call the good spirits to protect them against misfortune. So that's where that superstition comes from.
We have time for one more.
Well, in fact, I'd say that the most common superstition concerning good luck is the habit we have of saying, "bless you," when someone sneezes. Again, this dates back to the Middle Ages, when the Great Plague, which was a terrible infectious illness, was sweeping through Europe. Most people who caught the plague died, and one of the first symptoms was sneezing. When sufferers began sneezing violently, it was considered a sign that they might be going to die, and so the Pope passed a law in Rome requiring people to bless the person who was sneezing.
I never knew that. Elena, thank you so much for coming on the show. Coming up next time, we have...
File 1B. Pronunciation. 1.
You don't like the soup, do you?
I do like it. It's just that it's very hot. 2.
You haven't bought me a present, have you?
I have bought you one. It's just that I left it at home.
3.
You aren't enjoying this movie, are you?
I am enjoying it. It's just that I've seen it before.
4.
You didn't bring any money, did you?
I did bring some money. It's just that I spent it all.
5.
You won't ever wear those pants I gave you, will you?
I will wear them. It's just that I prefer wearing jeans. 6.
You can't play tennis, can you?
I can play tennis. It's just that I'm not very good at it.
File 2A. Listening. Speaker 1.
Last summer, I was sitting in my yard enjoying the sun when I heard my next-door neighbor suddenly cry out. Mrs. Thomas is 93 years old and she lives alone, so I raced over to her house to see what was wrong. The kitchen door was open, so I went in and found her on her knees with her head resting on the table. She'd fallen and cut her head, and there was blood everywhere. I grabbed a towel, folded it up, and pressed it onto the wound to stop the bleeding. Then I called an ambulance. She had to have stitches when she got to the hospital, and they kept her in the hospital that night for observation. But she went home the next day.
Speaker 2.
The only time I've ever had to use first aid was on a skiing trip to Canada. I'd gone with a few friends, and we were having a great time until disaster struck. One of my more adventurous friends was skiing down one of those slopes that is really only for experts, and he suddenly lost control and crashed into a tree. By the time we reached him, he was in a lot of pain, and his leg was at a really strange angle. The only thing we could do was to put snow around his leg to stop the pain and call an ambulance to take him to the hospital for an x-ray. In fact, his leg was broken in 3 places.
Speaker 3. I had a bit of a scare once when I was out with a friend walking our dogs. My friend Rosie suddenly fell and hit her head on the ground. She lost consciousness almost immediately. We were in the middle of nowhere, and I knew the emergency responders would take a long time to find us. Anyway, after calling 911, I lay Rosie on her side to make sure she was able to breathe. Then I lay down next to her and put our coats over us to keep us warm. When the paramedics arrived, they took Rosie straight to the hospital. She was fine in the end, but I found the whole thing really scary. Speaker 4.
A few years ago, I remember I was playing soccer in the park with some friends, and I suddenly had a terrible nosebleed. The blood was just pouring from my nose. I tried stuffing my nose with tissues, but it didn't make any difference. One of my friends told me to press ice on my face, but of course, we didn't have any ice there. Then another friend told me to pinch the soft part of my nose just under the bridge, and eventually it would stop. I didn't really believe him, but I tried it, and it worked.
Speaker 5.
My friends and I were having a barbecue at my house when it happened. My friend Diane suddenly started coughing and excused herself from the table. Her boyfriend, Martin, went after her, and we didn't think anything more of it until we heard Martin shouting for help because Diane couldn't breathe. By this time, she was turning blue, and she was clutching at her throat. I told Martin to call an ambulance, and then I hit Diane hard on the back several times. Suddenly, an enormous piece of meat shot out of her mouth, and she could breathe again. Oh, we were all really shocked when it was over, especially Diane.
File 2A. Pronunciation B. 1.
Pressure. Rash. Infection. Chest.
2.
Ache. Sick. Specialist. Cholesterol.
3.
Allergic. Finger. Emergency. Injury.
4.
Choke. Temperature. Stitches. Stomach.
5.
Couch. Consciousness. 6. Couch. Consciousness. 7. Couch. 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 Operation. Shock.
6.
Bandage. Injection. Negative. Surgery.
File 2A, Pronunciation D. 1. Antibiotic. 2.
Allergic.
3. Diarrhea. 4.
Dizzy.
5. Headache. 6.
Medicine.
7. Swollen. 8.
Temperature.
9. Vomit. 10.
Unconscious.
File 2B, Listening.
Hello, and welcome to the program. Today we're talking about old age, and we've asked our listeners to send in their questions. As usual, we have our expert, Laura, here in the studio with me to answer those questions. Hello, Laura.
Good morning.
Are you ready for the first question, Laura?
Yes, Bob.
Okay, then. It's from Maggie in Nashville. Maggie says, "Why are old people always so miserable?"
Well, I'm glad Maggie asked that question, Bob. The elderly have a terrible reputation for being miserable, but we've found out that it isn't actually true. According to our research, older people tend to be happier than young people. This is because they don't have so many things to worry about. Their children have left home, and so they can enjoy the freedom this brings with it. So, Maggie, just to set the record straight, old people aren't miserable.
Thanks for clearing that up for us, Laura. On to the next question. It's from John in New Haven. John asks, "Is there a typical age when people start getting sick?"
That's an interesting one. Many people think that people are programmed to get sick when they get old because of something in their genes, but this isn't true. People get sick if they have an unhealthy lifestyle. If you've taken care of yourself over the years, exercising enough and eating the right food, for example, then chances are that you'll be healthy in your old age. So, no, John, there isn't a typical age when you start getting sick. It depends, really, on how well you cared for yourself when you were younger.
Okay, here's another question for you, Laura. This one is from Heather in New Orleans. She says, "Old age must be really boring. People have been working hard all their lives, and then suddenly they're expected to sit back and do nothing. How do they cope?"
That's another good question, Bob. And now that people are living longer, retirement can last for 30 years or more. But there are plenty of things you can do to fill up your time. You can do part-time work or volunteer work. You can even start a completely different career if you want to. And then, of course, there might be grandchildren to lend a hand with. So, Heather, old age doesn't have to be boring. In fact, some elderly people find that they're almost as busy when they retire as they were when they were working full-time.
I hope that answers your question, Heather. Let's look at another one. Richard from Portland is concerned about the issue of overpopulation. He asks, "Will there be enough resources on the planet if everybody lives until they are 100?
First of all, Richard, it isn't everybody who lives until they're 100. It's only people in the developed world. And the elderly in the developed world are a relatively small percentage of the global population. The increase in population is caused by the high birth rate in developing countries. And sadly, many of these children never reach old age. So the question of having enough resources relates more to the population explosion in those countries, really, and not on the longer life expectancy in the West.
All right. Now we have time for one more question. Jessie from Dallas asks, "Do the elderly have a problem with loneliness?"
The thing you have to bear in mind here is that a lot of people today are living longer. This means that there will be a whole group of people just like you when you get old. The important thing is for you to accept your age, and other people will accept you. There really is no reason to be lonely.
And that's very good news for all of us. Laura, thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure.
File 2B, Pronunciation B. 1,
Loose. Scruffy. Shoes. Suit.
2,
Cotton. Hooded. Put. Wool.
3,
Linen. Slippers. Silk. Striped.
4,
Fur. Shirt. Shorts. Skirt.
5,
Jeans. Leather. Sleeveless. Green.
6,
V-neck. Cheap. Denim. Trendy.
File 3A, Listening.
Debbie, can you tell us about an exciting trip you've taken?
Sure. This happened a long time ago when I was working in Paris. I had a friend who was living in Palau at the time, and I decided I'd like to go and visit him. Do you know where Palau is?
No, sorry, I don't. Where is it?
Well, it's actually the Republic of Palau, and it's made up of about 250 islands in the western part of the Pacific Ocean. It's about 600 miles east of the Philippines, if that helps.
Ah, okay. I know where that is. So how did you get there?
Oh, well, that was a problem. I went to a travel agent in Paris, and the woman I spoke to told me that the trip wasn't going to be easy. First, I would have to fly to Hong Kong, then to Manila in the Philippines, and from there on to Palau.
So what was the problem?
Well, this was before the age of flight reservation systems. The travel agent could sell me the ticket for the Paris-Hong Kong flight, but she couldn't book any of the other flights because she had no contact with the airlines.
So what did you do?
I bought the ticket for Hong Kong, and then the travel agent gave me the address of the airline that would take me on to Manila. The idea was that I'd fly to Hong Kong, find the offices of the airline, buy my ticket to Manila, and ask about the flights to Palau.
Wow, what an adventure. So is that what you did?
Yes. I didn't think anything of it at the time. You know, I was young, and it was the kind of thing that people did in the past. If you wanted to go somewhere a little bit different, you had to find your own way there.
What happened when you got to Hong Kong?
It didn't take me long to find the offices of the airline because they were in the airport. When they opened, I bought my ticket to Manila and asked them about the flight to Palau. And that was when the fun started.
What do you mean?
Well, they told me that the flight from Manila to Palau only stopped in Manila to pick up cargo. The plane wasn't authorized to pick up passengers.
Oh, that wasn't good news.
No, it wasn't. Apparently, passengers could get on the plane at all of the other stops except in Manila. I have no idea why.
So what did you do?
Well, they said that the only thing I could do was to fly to Manila, find the plane, and talk to the pilot. If the pilot agreed to take me, then I could fly to Palau.
Don't tell me that's what you did.
Well, actually, it is. I took my flight to Manila and hung around for a while waiting for the plane to Palau. When it came in, I asked the flight attendant if I could speak to the pilot. It was a tiny plane, and there were only about 13 passengers on it. But they had their very own flight attendant.
And what did she say?
Actually, she seemed pretty excited about me speaking English. I found out why when she introduced me to the pilot. He was Australian. He was amused by my adventure and agreed immediately to take me on to Palau.
You were so lucky.
Yes, I know. But the best thing was that my friend was at the airport to meet me when I landed. I hadn't told him when I'd be getting there. Nobody had a cell phone then either. But he'd just dropped by on his way home from work to see if I was there.
That's amazing.
Absolutely. I don't think I'll ever forget that trip.
I'm not surprised.
File 3A, Pronunciation B. 1,
Bought. Caught.
2,
Rang. Sang.
3,
Made. Paid.
4,
Let. Met.
5,
Shut. Cut.
6,
Spoke. Woke.
7,
Sold. Told.
8,
Knew. Flew.
9,
Could. Stood.
10,
Read. Said.
File 3B, Listening. Speaker 1. I only ever have time to read when I'm on vacation, but it's something that I really look forward to. I always make a point of picking up 2 or 3 of the latest bestsellers from my local bookstore. When I'm away, I take my book with me to the beach or down to the pool, and then I spend all day lying in the sun reading. What better way to relax and completely disconnect from life back home? Speaker 2.
I spend a lot of time reading when I'm commuting to and from my job. The trip takes about an hour and a half each way, first on the train and then on the subway. I usually manage to get a seat on the train because it's one of the first stops. As soon as I sit down, I take out my e-reader and fall into the latest novel I'm reading. I'm a big fan of historical novels, and I get through at least one book a week.
Speaker 3.
I'm studying civil engineering in college, so I have to do a lot of reading, though none of it is for pleasure. At the start of the semester, they gave us a book list as long as my arm, but I haven't read all the books on it yet. Apart from academic books, I read a lot on the internet. There are a lot of web pages related to my studies, some of them better than others. I do most of my reading in my room, although I sometimes go to the library.
Speaker 4.
This may sound strange, but I do most of my reading when I'm at the gym. Actually, for me, it's more of a case of listening than reading, because I always take an audiobook with me. I download the book onto my MP3 player so that I can listen to it while I'm on a spin bike. I do a workout that is 50 minutes to an hour long, so my audiobook helps me pass the time. I'm really into crime fiction, so I usually listen to detective stories.
Speaker 5.
I used to read a lot, but now I can't because I have 2 small children who take up all my time. The only reading I do these days are children's stories. My sons are 3 and 5, and neither of them will go to sleep without their bedtime story. Every night it's the same routine: bath, dinner, story. The only thing that changes is whose bed we lie on. Their favorite is The Hungry Caterpillar, but I like the Dr. Seuss stories.
File 3B, Pronunciation B. 1. Stress on first syllable.
Absolutely. Definitely. Fortunately. Obviously.
2. Stress on second syllable.
Apparently. Eventually. Immediately. Incredibly. Successfully. Surprisingly.
3. Stress on third syllable.
Insecurely.
File 4A, Listening.
And our next story takes us to Australia, where an extreme sports enthusiast had a lucky escape today. 35-year-old Eva Wisniewska from Germany was preparing for the World Paragliding Championships when she saw a massive thunderstorm coming toward her. The storm appeared out of nowhere while she was paragliding over Manila in New South Wales, Australia. She tried to avoid it, but because paragliders have no engine, she could not go fast enough to get away from it. When the storm caught up with her, it lifted her up into the air. She told an Australian radio station that the strong winds blew her up in the air like a leaf from a tree. The storm took just under 15 minutes to carry the paraglider from a height of 2,460 feet to an estimated height of 6 miles. During the ascent, the temperature dropped to around minus 58 degrees Fahrenheit, and Ms. Wisniewska witnessed hailstones the size of oranges. Here's how Eva describes her experience. I was shaking all the time. The last thing I remember, it was dark. I could hear lightning all around me. She was sucked up so high that eventually she lost consciousness, but her paraglider continued flying. The whole ordeal was recorded by the GPS system and radio that was attached to her equipment. Luckily for Ms. Wisniewska, she was only unconscious for about half an hour. When she came to, she had descended to around 4 miles and she was covered in ice. She managed to take control of her paraglider and succeeded in descending by herself. She told reporters later that she felt like an astronaut as she was returning to the ground. I could see the Earth coming like Apollo 13. She eventually landed about 200 feet from the site where she had taken off. She had ice in her flying suit and frostbite on her face from the extremely low temperatures she had experienced. As soon as she reached the ground, she was taken to the hospital for observation, but she was released an hour later. The competition organizers stressed how lucky Ms. Wisniewska had been to regain consciousness while she was up in the air. The body of another Chinese paraglider was found later in the day, about 260 feet from where he had taken off. 42-year-old He Zongpin from China had been caught up in the same storm as the German woman, but he had not survived the ordeal. Apparently, he had died from extreme cold and a lack of oxygen.
File 4A, Pronunciation B.
Chili. Fish.
E. Breeze. Heat wave.
Ow. Showers. Drought.
Or. Warm. Pouring.
Flood. Thunder.
I. Bright. Lightning.
File 4B, Listening.
And I'd like to welcome Andy Evans, the director of Extreme Sports United, to the program today. Andy, your specialty is bungee jumping, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Can you tell us something about bungee jumping? Whose idea was it?
Well, bungee jumping has been around for centuries, but it wasn't discovered in the West until relatively recently. It originated on the South Pacific island of Vanuatu, where young men, known as land divers, used to perform the ritual of jumping from tall wooden platforms with vines tied to their ankles.
Oh, and when did land diving actually become a sport?
Well, the first modern bungee jump happened about 20 years later in Bristol, in the UK. A man named Chris Baker used a kind of elastic rope to make a bungee. That's the name of the rope. And 4 members of the Dangerous Sports Club made a jump from the Clifton Suspension Bridge on April 1st, 1979.
Wow.
They were arrested almost immediately afterward, but people continued jumping off bridges, especially in the U.S. For example, people did bungee jumps from the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco.
Oh.
In fact, some of these jumps were sponsored by American TV, and so this brought the concept of bungee jumping to the public eye. And then, of course, a lot of people wanted to try it themselves.
How dangerous is bungee jumping? I mean, have people been killed while they were bungee jumping?
Actually, there have been relatively few fatalities considering the number of successful jumps that have taken place. By far, the most important thing is to make sure the bungee is the right length.
Yeah.
The most common cause of death is using a bungee that is too long, but in most cases, the calculations and fittings are double-checked before each jump.
How does it actually feel doing a bungee jump?
Well, many people say they love the feeling of falling so fast, but personally, the part I really like best is when the bungee reaches its full extent and then you fly upward again.
Oh.
You just can't beat the feeling of flying back up after you've almost hit the ground.
File 4B, Pronunciation B. 1,
Accident.
2,
Account.
3,
Advantage.
4,
Attitude.
5,
Control.
6,
Decision.
7,
Insurance.
8,
Nightmare.
9,
Risky.
10.
Safety.
File 5A, Listening.
Okay, if I can have your attention, please. Good morning, everybody. My name's Sam. I'm a firefighter, and I'm here today to give you some tips on how to prevent house fires. I'll also be telling you the best way of getting out of a fire if you ever happen to be trapped in one. Most fires in the home happen while people are sleeping. One of the most important steps you can take to protect your family is to install a smoke alarm on each floor of your house. Once you've got your smoke alarm installed and working, you should make an escape plan with your family to make sure everyone knows how to get out. Of course, there are other precautions you can take. The most common causes of fatal fires in the home are tobacco and smoking products, so it's best to avoid smoking in the bedroom. It's also important to keep matches and lighters out of reach of children, preferably in a locked cabinet. Never leave food that's cooking unattended, especially hot oil if you're frying. As well as preventing fires in the home, you also need to know what to do if a fire does break out. If you get trapped in your home by smoke or flames, close all doors and stuff towels or clothing under the doors to keep smoke out. Cover your nose and mouth with a damp cloth to protect your lungs. If you have to escape through a smoky area, remember that cleaner air is always nearer the floor, so you'll need to crawl out on all fours. Finally, and very importantly, if a fire breaks out, do not try to rescue pets or possessions. There isn't time to do this. You must get out as soon as possible. Once you have gotten out, do not go back in for any reason. Firefighters have a better chance of rescuing people who are trapped than you do. Okay, any questions?
File 5A. Pronunciation B. Stress on first syllable.
Devastated. Horrified.
Stress on second syllable.
Astonished. Bewildered. Delighted. Offended.
Stress on third syllable.
Disappointed. Overwhelmed.
File 5A. Pronunciation C. 1.
Thrilled. Confused. Excited.
2.
Depressed. Exhausted. Offended.
3.
Shocked. Astonished. Surprised.
4.
Relieved. Frustrated. Terrified.
5.
Disgusted. Irritated. Stunned.
File 5B. Listening.
So, what annoys you about my family?
Are you really sure you want to talk about this?
Sure, why not? What's the problem? They're not that bad, are they?
No, of course not. But I have a different perspective, don't you think?
Oh, come on. I'd really like to know what you think.
Well, all right then.
What about my mom?
Well, I think she's really nice,
But
she drives me crazy when I'm cooking. I mean, if she wants to help, that's great. But I wish she wouldn't keep complaining that my cabinets aren't organized. I'm very happy with my house and the way it looks, so I wish she wouldn't criticize all the time.
well, I don't think she's that bad. I mean, I think she just wants to help.
Yes, and I'm grateful for her help, but not for her comments, okay? That's just how I feel, all right?
Okay. What about Dad?
Well, he's not really interested in anyone else, is he? I mean, if he's happy, then that's fine. And if he isn't, well, everyone else has to make sure that he's all right.
I don't think that's very fair. He's not well, and he gets tired quickly, and...
You asked me to tell you what I think, so I'm telling you, okay? I just don't think it's right that we all have to go running around after your dad when there are other people to think about. I mean, there are the kids to worry about, too. Okay, it's your turn now.
What?
To tell me about my family.
Well, after what you said, I don't know where to start. Well, really, your mom can be pretty unbearable. In fact, I've been meaning to...
File 5B. Pronunciation A.
D. Amazed. Confused. Inspired. Terrified.
T. Astonished. Embarrassed. Shocked. Stressed.
Id. Disappointed. Frustrated. Infuriated. Offended.
File 6A. Listening.
And continuing our overview of what's on and where this week, We're going to move on to movies. Judith is here to tell us about a documentary that is showing at the Independent Movie Theater next week. Judith?
Yes, Robert. The documentary is called Alive Inside, and it was made by Michael Rosalto Bennett, an alternative U.S. filmmaker. The documentary explores the positive effect that music can have on patients suffering from Alzheimer's disease. It follows the progress of a social worker named Dan Cohen and his plan to introduce music in nursing homes in New York, where people with Alzheimer's are being taken care of.
How interesting. Tell us more.
In the documentary, we see how he visits the nursing homes and meets some of the patients. What he does is to create a personalized playlist for the patients, which they can listen to on an MP3 player or an iPod. He finds out which songs to include by interviewing each patient's family. By creating the playlist, he hopes that the patients will be able to travel back to the time when they heard the songs, and maybe it will even help them remember important events in their past.
And does it work?
Well, I'm giving away some of the story here, but yes, it does work. Cohen's biggest success story is a man named Henry. Maybe you've seen the clip about Henry on YouTube?
No, I haven't. What is it?
Oh, okay. Well, Henry is special because of the astonishing transformation that happens to him when he listens to his playlist for the first time. When we first see him, he is sitting in his chair with his head down, and he's barely capable of answering questions, except with a monosyllabic yes or no. But when he's given his headphones, he turns into a completely different person. His eyes open wide, his face lights up, and he starts moving to the music. He can even answer questions about the song he's listening to. It's actually very emotional watching his reaction, which is probably why millions of people have seen that video clip I mentioned.
It sounds like an amazing story, Judith. But do the playlists work for everybody?
They seem to work for most people, yes. And they have had a much wider effect than helping only individuals. At first, Cohen was worried that the iPods might isolate the patients, as each one would be listening to his or her own set. But in fact, the playlists are encouraging them to socialize. The staff members in all 4 of the nursing homes he worked with in New York reported that the music was helping the residents to talk to each other more. The patients would ask each other questions about the music, and in some cases, they wanted to share the different songs.
What effect has Cohen's work had on other nursing homes across the country?
It's too early to say what will happen in nursing homes across the country, but in New York, there have definitely been some changes. One of the greatest obstacles to the plan is the cost. MP3 players aren't cheap, and providing one for every patient in each nursing home would just be too expensive. But Cohen is trying to get around this problem by asking people to donate any old MP3 players or iPods that they may have lying at home at the back of a drawer.
Well, this sounds like a really worthwhile project, Judith. But what about the film? Would you recommend it?
Yes, definitely, especially if someone in your family suffers from Alzheimer's. You'll find it a great comfort.
Thanks, Judith, for your recommendation. And just to remind you of the name of that documentary, it's Alive Inside, and it's showing at the Independent Movie Theater from Monday to Saturday next week. And now it's time to look at what's on at the theater.
File 6A, Pronunciation B. 1.
Choir. Church. Orchestra. Psychology.
2.
Cappuccino. Cello. Concerto. Macchiato.
3.
Chauffeur. Chef. Chic. Chorus.
4.
Bouquet. Encore. Fiancé. Hypochondriac.
File 6A, Pronunciation C. 1,
A lot of paparazzi took photographs of the movie star.
2,
The architecture is ruined by the graffiti.
3,
The barista brought me my croissant.
4,
The technician gave the soprano a new microphone.
5,
The dancers in that ballet had a natural sense of rhythm.
File 6B, Listening.
Hello, and welcome to the program. Now, we all know that the amount of sleep you get each night can affect your work and your ability to interact with others. Health specialists say that the amount of sleep the average person needs is between 7 and 9 hours per night. Some new research suggests that diet plays an important role in whether we get a good night of sleep or not. Dietitian Richard Vickers is here with us in the studio to tell us more. Good morning, Richard, and welcome to the program.
Hello, Holly.
So, Richard, we all know that coffee tends to keep us awake at night. What else should we avoid at dinner time?
Well, actually, Holly, it isn't only coffee that can disturb sleep.
Oh?
It is any food or beverage that contains caffeine. For example, chocolate or tea or many soft drinks. Of course, caffeine doesn't affect everybody in the same way, but if you are sensitive to it, you should avoid it in the afternoon and in the evening. That way, it won't keep you awake at night.
Is there anything else that can potentially stop us sleeping?
Yes, there is. Your sleep can be disturbed if your dinner has a high fat content.
Oh.
The body takes a long time to digest fat, which can make you feel very uncomfortable when you go to bed. People who have extra butter on their bread or heavy cream with their dessert often complain of heartburn or indigestion when they go to bed.
Well, that makes sense. So, does it make a difference what time you have dinner compared to the time you go to bed?
Yes, it does. People who suffer from heartburn or indigestion should avoid eating late at all costs. Lying down with a full stomach makes it much more difficult for the body to digest food, causing discomfort and sometimes pain. In fact, eating late can affect all kinds of people, so in general, I wouldn't recommend it. The same can be said of the quantity you have. Heavy meals should be consumed at lunchtime, and you should aim to be eating a light snack in the evening. This will fill your stomach so that you aren't hungry when you go to bed, but it won't make you feel so full that you can't sleep.
Richard, we've talked about the amount of food we should and shouldn't eat. What about liquids?
Well, for a good night of sleep, you're obviously better off drinking water with your dinner. But you shouldn't drink too much of that either.
Oh.
Don't drink too much at dinner time or after dinner, or your sleep will be disrupted because you will have to go to the bathroom during the night.
Okay, so much for what we shouldn't do. Is there anything that will actually help us go to sleep at night?
Yes, there is. Milk. Milk contains a special substance that affects the way that certain hormones in the brain work. One of these hormones is serotonin, which helps us fall asleep. This is why members of the older generation often have a hot, milky drink before they go to bed.
Is there anything else that can help?
Yes, there's an herb called valerian, which seems to work well. Research has shown that substances in the root of the valerian plant relax the central nervous system and the muscles. You can take it in liquid or tablet form, or you can make a tea out of it. People who have used valerian have said that it has helped them fall asleep quicker, and it has given them a deep and satisfying rest.
It sounds like valerian might be the answer then. I'm afraid that's all we have time for today, Richard. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
File 6B, Pronunciation A. 1,
We used to use blankets, but now we have a comforter.
2,
I'm not used to taking a nap after lunch.
3,
We soon got used to living in our new house.
4,
I never used to have problems sleeping.
5,
Terry is used to working at night.
6,
She couldn't get used to living on her own.
File 6B. Pronunciation B. 1,
Fall. Yawn.
2,
Alarm.
3,
Blanket. Jet lagged. Nap.
4,
Asleep. Insomnia. Siesta.
5,
Nightmare.
File 7A. Listening. Speaker 1.
My husband and I had just been food shopping, and we were having an argument about something, how much money we'd spent or why we'd bought one particular item of food. I don't know. Anyway, the argument continued into the kitchen, and while we were putting all the food away, my husband kept on banging his hand on the table every time he made a point. But he didn't realize that, without thinking about it, he had picked up one of those little plastic yogurt cups. Suddenly, he hit the table and there was yogurt everywhere, on the table, on the floor, on the ceiling, on the walls, and on him. We both just burst out laughing, and that was the end of the argument.
Speaker 2.
I had an argument with my dad once over a pair of sneakers. We were in the mall when I saw a really nice pair of DC sneakers in a store window. I pointed them out to my dad, but he'd never heard of the brand DC, and so he said that they must have been made by another designer brand called Dolce & Gabbana, DG. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't convince him that the sneakers were DC and not DG. In the end, he said he'd buy them for me if I was right. So we went into the store to ask about the sneakers. The salesperson said, "You mean the DC ones?" Proving that I had been right all along. You should have seen my dad's face.
Speaker 3.
I was with my girlfriend one night and we decided to go to a fast food restaurant to get some burgers to go. Anyway, we started arguing about something in the car on the way. I don't know what started it, but I remember getting pretty angry. The argument continued while we parked, while we were standing in line, while we were ordering, while we were paying, and while we were going home. We were concentrating so much on the argument that we didn't realize that we hadn't picked up the food. We were still arguing in the car when suddenly my girlfriend said, "Where are the hamburgers?" Then, of course, we had to drive back to the restaurant to get the food.
Speaker 4.
This happened when I was little. I was in the kitchen with my sister when my parents started having an argument. My dad was starting to shout when my older brother came in. He must have been about 16 at the time, but he was already taller than my dad. My brother tried to get my dad to calm down, but my dad wasn't listening. In the end, my brother said to him, "Okay, you're going to your room." He picked him up, put him over his shoulder, and started taking him upstairs. This broke the tension immediately, and everyone started laughing, including my dad. Honestly, if you could have seen him holding on to the stair rail trying to stop my brother from getting him upstairs, it's one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
Speaker 5.
This happened a couple of years ago while I was at work. I work at one of those helpline call centers where people call if they have a problem with their internet connections. Well, anyway, this woman called and she was absolutely furious because she couldn't get her internet to work. She was so angry that she was just screaming into the phone at me. Suddenly, there was a break in the conversation, and I said to her, "So what's the weather like up there where you live?" I don't know what came over me, but those were the words that came out of my mouth. And it worked. The woman was so shocked that she stopped shouting and answered my question. After that, we were able to have a reasonably civil conversation, and I managed to solve her problem for her.
File 7A. Pronunciation. 1,
They're taking Steve to the hospital. He might have broken a bone.
2,
Ella isn't here yet. She couldn't have gotten my message.
3,
It was only a joke. She shouldn't have gotten so angry.
4,
This restaurant is packed. We should have made a reservation.
5,
I didn't hear the phone. I must have been asleep.
6,
Becky and Ian aren't at the party. They may have forgotten about it.
File 7B. Listening.
Hello and welcome to the program. Today we're trying to answer the question, what makes a good actor? Our next guest is drama teacher Nicholas Whitby. He's going to tell us a little bit about method acting. Hello, Nicholas, and welcome to the show.
Hello, Lily.
So, Nicholas, what exactly is method acting?
Well, method acting is the technique that actors use to create in themselves the thoughts and feelings of their characters. Different actors use different techniques to do this, but the original technique involves doing a series of sense memory exercises.
Sense memory. What's that?
Well, a memory is a situation that you have a recollection of, right?
Uh-huh.
Well, a sense memory is the recollection of the sensations you experienced during that situation.
Oh.
Method actors use this sense memory to help them recreate a particular emotion in front of the camera. They have to do exercises to make this work effectively.
What kind of exercises?
Well, what most of them do is to focus on the particular situation in the past until the sensations they experienced come back to them.
Oh.
They do this in sessions of 15 minutes or so until they can reproduce their feelings automatically.
Mm-hmm.
For example, if a movie is set in the North Pole, the actor needs to show that he is really cold. So he does his sense memory exercise to help him remember a time when he experienced intense cold. Then he can convince the audience that he is really cold.
Do all actors do these sense memory exercises?
No, they don't, Lily. Method acting can mean the difference between an Oscar-winning actor and an ordinary actor.
Oh.
Going back to our scene in the North Pole, an ordinary actor would indicate the cold by shivering, wrapping his arms around himself, and blowing into his freezing hands.
Mm-hmm.
He wouldn't actually be feeling the cold, which would mean that the audience probably wouldn't feel it either.
Talking of Oscar winners, Nicholas, tell us about some of the best method actors.
Well, let's look at the men first. One actor who goes even further than the use of sense memory is three-time Oscar winner Daniel Day-Lewis. Day-Lewis is known for immersing himself in every role he plays.
Mm-hmm.
In My Left Foot, he played the severely disabled Irish writer Christy Brown. During filming, the crew had to feed him in his wheelchair, and he learned to put a record onto a record player with his foot.
Wow.
A couple of years later, he spent several months living in the wild in preparation for another movie, Last of the Mohicans.
Mm-hmm.
And in 2012's Lincoln, He walked and talked like Abraham Lincoln the whole of the time that the movie was being shot.
What about female actors, Nicholas?
Probably the best example of a female actor who made a superhuman effort to enter her part is Charlize Theron in the movie Monster. Before Monster came out, we were used to seeing Ms. Theron playing superficial female parts, requiring a woman with a pretty face, which is what made her transformation into the serial killer in Monster so shocking. Ms. Theron put on nearly 30 pounds in order to play the role, and anybody who has seen the movie will tell you she is one of the scariest murderers who has ever hit the big screen. Not surprisingly, she won the Oscar for Best Actress that year.
Yes, I remember that one. And I remember Charlize Theron being terribly convincing. Thank you for joining us, Nicholas, and explaining method acting to us. Next on the program, we're going to talk about...
File 8A, Listening. Speaker 1.
This was something that happened to a friend of mine. It was very late, about 11:30, and he was walking home from work. While he was going through the park, this guy came up to him and told him to give him all his money, which he did. Then, the guy asked him for his cell phone, but my friend refused to give it to him. So the guy hit him really hard and knocked him to the ground, breaking his arm. By the time my friend got to the hospital, he was in terrible pain. And later, the doctors told him he'd been really lucky. It just shows it's better not to try to be brave if something like that happens to you.
Speaker 2.
I don't know why, but I always seem to have my wallet stolen when I'm abroad. I guess it's because I'm speaking English, and I probably look like a tourist or something. The last time I was in a very touristy street in the center of town, but luckily I wasn't carrying much in my wallet, just a few dollars. I've gotten so used to it now that I always take my personal documents out of my wallet and leave them in the hotel. That way, if I'm robbed, I only lose a little bit of money.
Speaker 3.
I did something really stupid once. I was traveling home by train and I was really tired, so I fell asleep. Unfortunately, I left my bag with all my things in it on the floor, and I didn't notice when someone took it. I realized what had happened when I woke up, and as soon as the train arrived in the station, I went right to the police. Amazingly, the police found my bag. But of course, my wallet, my phone, and my MP3 player were all missing. I can't believe I was so stupid.
Speaker 4.
My mom was on vacation once with a group of friends. They were walking back to their beach condo when a thief tried to grab one of the women's bags. But she didn't let go and started screaming. The other women started screaming too, and all of them started hitting him. He ran away without the bag, and the group went into a cafe where the people had seen what had happened and all cheered for them. After that, they decided to get a taxi back to the beach condo.
Speaker 5.
I was sitting in a coffee shop once when I saw someone take one of the other customers' bags. The thief was with a friend on a motorcycle. The two of them drove up outside the cafe together, and then one of them jumped off and ran inside. He grabbed the first bag he came across and then ran back out of the door again. He jumped onto the back of the motorcycle, and the two of them rode off. It all happened so fast that nobody had a chance to react.
File 8A, Pronunciation B. 1.
Burglar. Murderer. Secure. Verdict.
2.
Judge. Jury. Drugs. Punishment.
3.
Caught.
guilty, stalker, fraud,
4,
trial, bribery, blackmail, hijack.
File 8B, listening.
Hello, and welcome to the show. On today's program, we're looking at famous media mistakes. Journalist Simon Bennett is here in the studio with me, and he's going to tell us about a rather memorable weather forecast. Good morning, Simon.
Hello, Sylvia.
Simon, tell us what happened.
Well, this happened back in October 1987. The forecaster of that particular weather broadcast was Michael Fish, a familiar face in most British households, because he'd been forecasting the weather for over 30 years. During the program, Michael referred to a phone call a woman had made to the BBC. Apparently, the woman had asked if there was going to be a hurricane. Michael laughed and said, "If the lady is watching, don't worry, there isn't going to be a hurricane." And nobody thought anything more about it until later on that night.
That's right. There was a terrible storm, wasn't there?
Yes, there was. That night, a huge storm hit southern England. To be absolutely accurate, it wasn't actually a hurricane, because hurricanes have to form in tropical areas to be called by that name. But there certainly was a terrible storm that night, with winds of up to 110 miles per hour. These wind speeds are typical of hurricanes, which is why there is some confusion about what to call the storm.
So, what kind of damage did it cause?
The storm killed 18 people and many more were injured, mainly by falling trees. And it caused billions of dollars worth of damage. Millions of homes were left without power because trees had fallen on power lines. Transportation in the southern part of the country was severely disrupted because fallen trees had blocked the roads and railways. In total, about 15 million trees fell down that night, and the scene the next morning was complete chaos. It was the worst storm to hit the UK in living memory.
What happened to Michael Fish after that?
A lot of people blamed him for all the damage because he hadn't warned them about the storm. Worse still, he had said that there wasn't going to be a storm at all. Since then, he has tried several times to make excuses for his words, but deep down, nobody believes him. Michael Fish has gone down in history as the forecaster who failed to predict a hurricane. In fact, 25 years after the event, he appeared in the opening ceremony of the 2012 London Olympic Games, giving a repeat performance of his famous broadcast.
You can see a video of the original broadcast on YouTube as well, can't you, Simon?
Yes, that's right.
And now it's time for our weather broadcast. Let's hope we don't make the same mistake as Michael Fish. Simon Bennett, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Thanks, Sylvia. So, a pretty bright start for most of us this morning. Temperatures already around the 60-degree mark.
File 8B, pronunciation B. Stress on first syllable.
offer, promise, threaten,
Stress on second syllable.
Accuse. Admit. Advise. Agree. Convince. Deny. Insist. Invite. Persuade. Refuse. Remind. Suggest.
File 9A, listening.
And now it's time for the part of the program when we ask our listeners to give us their opinion about a story that has been in the news recently. And today, we're looking at the story of the New Jersey man who bought a lottery ticket with a pool of 5 coworkers in November of 2009 and cashed it, but didn't share it. He kept all the money for himself. Just in case you haven't heard, Americo Lopez, a construction worker, bought a Mega Millions lottery ticket to share with his coworkers. When Mr. Lopez discovered the ticket had won a prize, he took it to the lottery office and cashed it for the prize money, which was more than $38.5 million. Mr. Lopez didn't tell anyone he had won the lottery and quit his job claiming he needed foot surgery. Several months later, Mr. Lopez told a friend about his winning ticket. When his co-workers discovered he'd won the lottery, they took him to court, where the jury decided that Mr. Lopez would have to split his winnings with 5 co-workers. We want to know what you think about all this. Who do you think should get the prize money? All of the co-workers in the lottery pool or just Mr. Lopez? The number to call is 1-800-555-5362, and the lines have just opened. I'll say that number again for you. It's 1-800-555-5362. And here's our first caller. Andrew from Trenton. What do you think?
Well, I think Mr. Lopez should keep all the money. Maybe he bought a lottery ticket with his own money in addition to getting one for his lottery pool. You never know. Also, there's no law against keeping the information about winning the lottery to yourself. Maybe he's a very private person and he doesn't like sharing information about his life.
Thank you for calling, Andrew. And now we have Mara from Boise on the line. Mara, do you agree with Andrew?
No, I don't. Not at all. Even if that man bought the lottery ticket with his own money, he should still share it with his coworkers. They had a deal. If the ticket was worth money, then all the coworkers should have a share. If Mr. Lopez didn't want to share the money, he never should have joined a lottery pool in the first place. Am I shocked that he tried to keep all the money to himself? No, I'm not. Money does terrible things to people.
Thanks for that, Mara. And our next caller is... Hold on a moment. Yes, it's Roger from Binghamton. What do you think, Roger?
Well, I was brought up to understand that if I kept an object or money that belonged to other people, I would be stealing. I can't understand why there's so much confusion here. Morally, the man should have told his co-workers about the ticket immediately after he learned it was a winner. The jury was right to make Mr. Lopez share the money with his co-workers. It wasn't his to keep to himself in the first place.
Thank you for calling, Roger. And now it's Beth's turn. Beth's from Tucson. Tell us what you think, Beth.
Yes, the last caller said the man had a moral obligation to share the lottery ticket. But in fact, he had a legal obligation to do so too. The group didn't keep written records of the tickets they bought together. Because of this, Mr. Lopez can't prove one way or the other that the winning ticket was his alone. Legally, this casts doubt on Mr. Lopez's claims.
Thanks for explaining the legal aspects of the case to us, Beth. And we have time for one more caller. It's Carlos from Long Island. Carlos, what's your opinion?
Well, I have some sympathy for Mr. Lopez, you know. He's the one who actually bought the ticket, and when he discovered that it had won a prize, he cashed it. Did anyone in the lottery pool ask if the ticket was a winner? Did they ask Mr. Lopez what the numbers on the tickets were? The point is that the co-workers were just as responsible for knowing the ticket information as Mr. Lopez was.
Thank you for calling, Carlos. We'll be back with some more views in a moment, but first it's time for the news.
File 9A, Pronunciation C. 1.
China exports more goods than any other country.
2.
Vinyl records are becoming popular again.
3.
There's been a huge increase in gas prices recently.
4.
You can only lose weight if you decrease the amount of calories you eat.
5.
Scientists are making progress on finding a cure for AIDS.
6.
The visa permits you to stay for 3 months.
7.
Brazil produces about a third of the world's coffee.
8.
We do not give refunds without a valid receipt.
File 9B. Listening. Speaker 1.
My favorite city is on the east coast of the United States, on the banks of the Potomac River. It's named in honor of the first president of the United States, and it's well known for its many historical monuments, such as the Lincoln Memorial, the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, and the Jefferson Memorial. It also has the world's largest museum, the Smithsonian Institution. The best time of year to visit, in my opinion, is in the spring during the National Cherry Blossom Festival. 3,000 cherry trees around the city, a gift from Japan in 1912, are covered in tiny pink flowers. It's quite breathtaking.
Speaker 2.
The most beautiful city I've ever visited is on the Pacific coast of Canada. It's surrounded by water on 3 sides and has the Coast Mountain Range on the other. There's a large island across from the city where Canadians often go on vacation. It also has the largest urban park in North America, called Stanley Park, which has a zoo, a marine science center, and famous gardens containing native trees. It's known as one of the cities with the highest quality of life in the world.
Speaker 3.
My favorite city is the capital of a South American country. It's on the banks of the Rio de la Plata and is famous for being the birthplace of tango. It's one of the world's busiest ports, and the residents often refer to themselves as porteños. The main square is called the Plaza de Mayo, and one of this city's streets, the Avenida 9 de Julio, is said to be the widest boulevard in the world. Although it's not in Europe, it actually feels quite European. Parts of it remind me of Paris and other parts of Italy. In fact, one of the districts is called Palermo Viejo, like the capital of Sicily.
Speaker 4.
I took a gap year between graduating from high school and starting college, and I went traveling. I visited a lot of wonderful places, but the one I liked best was a city on the southeast coast of Australia. It's a very cosmopolitan city, full of many different cultures, and it has the best Chinatown that I've ever seen. One of the most fascinating things about it is the architecture. Beautiful old buildings from the Victorian era contrast with the latest design in skyscrapers. The difference is striking. It's a fairly big city with a lot of parks and gardens, and there are some amazing beaches nearby.
Speaker 5.
I'm lucky because my job allows me to spend 1 month every year working in my favorite big city. It's on the south coast of China, and I think it's amazing. It's pretty crowded, but that makes it even more exciting as far as I'm concerned. It's a real mixture of East and West. On the one hand, it's an international financial center, and on the other, you can find traditional old markets selling all kinds of different food. There are green parks full of people doing Tai Chi first thing in the morning, and the city has a really modern and efficient tram and metro system, so it's very easy to get around.
File 9B. Pronunciation B. Stress on first syllable.
Friendliness. Government. Ignorance. Poverty.
Stress on second syllable.
Bilingual. Convenience. Excitement. Reduction.
Stress on third syllable.
Antisocial. Entertainment. Overcrowded. Unemployment.
File 10A. Listening.
Hello, and welcome to the program. Now, most people associate NASA with astronauts and rocket ships. What they don't know is that NASA research extends far beyond spaceflight and into our daily lives. Our special guest today is freelance science journalist Hank Webb. He's going to tell us about some of the products invented by NASA that we use every day. Good morning, Hank.
Hi there.
So, Hank, where are you going to start?
Well, I'm going to start with something that has saved lives in many homes all over the world, the smoke detector. In the 1970s, when NASA engineers were designing the first U.S. space station called Skylab, they realized that the astronauts would need to know if a fire had started or if there were poisonous gases in the air. The engineers teamed up with a company called the Honeywell Corporation, and together they invented a special kind of smoke detector. The new model was adjustable. Astronauts could change the level of sensitivity on it so that there was never a false alarm.
That's fascinating. What's next?
Well, the next one has changed the lives of people who need glasses. As you know, the two lenses in a pair of glasses used to be made of, well, glass. Glass lenses often broke when the glasses were dropped, so opticians started using plastic instead. Plastic doesn't break, but it does scratch easily, and scratched lenses can damage your sight. NASA solved this problem when they developed a new substance to protect the helmets worn by astronauts. The substance stops the plastic from scratching so easily. Manufacturers of glasses soon started using this new technology in their products, which is why the lenses in today's glasses are less likely to scratch than they were in the past.
And that's great news for all of us who wear glasses. We have time for one more, Hank.
All right, I'll tell you about the ear thermometer then. This was developed from the infrared technology that NASA uses to measure the temperature of stars. A company called Diatech saw a need to reduce the amount of time nurses spent taking temperatures.
Yeah?
Together with NASA, the company invented an infrared sensor that serves as the thermometer. The sensor takes your temperature by measuring the amount of heat produced inside your ear. The ear thermometers used in hospitals can take your temperature in less than 2 seconds.
Yes, and those thermometers are a vast improvement on the ones with mercury inside. I can never seem to read them. Hank Webb, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
File 10A. Pronunciation B. 1.
Biology. Biological.
2.
Chemist. Chemistry.
3.
Discover. Discovery.
4.
Experiment. Experimental.
5.
Genetic. Geneticist.
6.
Physics. Physicist.
7.
Scientist. Scientific.
8.
Theory. Theoretical.
File 10B. Listening.
Hello, and welcome to the program. Now, public speaking can be a harrowing experience at the best of times, but imagine how difficult it must be for an important person with a stammer. This was exactly the problem faced by George VI, King of England from 1936 to 1952. Now we're going to find out a little bit more about the king's condition. Good morning, Sarah.
Hello.
So, Sarah, do we know what caused the king's stammer?
Well, according to the leading speech therapy expert, Rosemary Hayhow, the king's stammer developed when he was a child. Everybody called him Bertie then, so I will too. Bertie's problem was a psychological one. His father, George V, was a demanding man who would not tolerate weakness. When he saw that his second son was left-handed, he forced Bertie to write with his right hand. This is something that is often associated with stammering today.
Did Bertie have any other problems with his family?
Yes, with his elder brother, Edward. Edward used to laugh at Bertie when he stammered, which made his problem even worse.
Did Bertie ever have to speak in public?
Not usually, no. But in 1925, his father asked him to give the closing address at the British Empire Exhibition at Wembley. The speech was broadcast live to the nation, and it was a complete disaster.
Ooh.
Bertie stammered out a few words, and then the broadcast ended in silence. It was then that he realized he had to get help.
Who did he turn to?
Well, first of all, he tried his father's doctors, whose methods were very old-fashioned.
Mm-hmm.
They used to make him fill his mouth with marbles, and on one occasion he nearly choked. Fortunately, his wife, Elizabeth, was able to find a different therapist for him. It was an Australian named Lionel Logue, who was actually an actor. Mr. Logue had been working as a speech therapist with soldiers who had lost their ability to speak because of the traumas of war.
Huh. How did Mr. Logue treat Bertie?
Well, to start with, Mr. Logue insisted on seeing Bertie in his Harley Street office, and he refused to use Bertie's official title, which was the Duke of York. Instead, he called him Bertie. Mr. Logue used techniques that gave Bertie more confidence. He made him sing instead of speaking. He played music to him through headphones while he was reading so that he couldn't hear himself and become self-conscious. He even got Bertie to swear. After about 10 months, the treatment seemed to be working.
Which was a good job, wasn't it? Because soon after that, Bertie became King of England.
That's right, Jeremy. When George V died, Bertie's brother Edward became King Edward VIII. But Edward wanted to marry an American woman who was divorced, which he was forbidden from doing as king. In the end, Edward abdicated, and Bertie became King George VI, which meant that he had to start speaking in public again.
Oh, so what happened?
At first, the king avoided making live speeches, but by 1939, he couldn't do this any longer. On September 3rd of that year, Britain declared war on Germany, and the king had to deliver the most important speech of his life.
So what did he do?
He asked Mr. Logue to help him. The two men went into a small room with the recording equipment and closed the door. The two men went into a small room with the broadcasting equipment and closed the door. Mr. Logue opened a window and told the king to take off his jacket. Then he advised the king to forget everybody else and say the speech to him as a friend.
Did it work?
Yes, it did. The king's delivery was calm, dignified, and measured. And at the end of the broadcast, Mr. Logue finally called him Your Majesty. File 10B, Pronunciation B. 1. I left my coat in the back seat of my car. 2.
The accident happened last night.
3. The clocks fall back next weekend. 4.
The uniform my sister wears to school is awful.
5. Have you ever been to the U.S.? 6.
The end of that movie was really sad.